Barakatah Yahweh, Barakatah Yahweh Shai, Bahasham, Brakahakodash, Barakatum. First and foremost, I want to give all praises, glory, and infinite honors to Yahweh, Bahasham, Yahweh Shai. Double honors to the apostles and elders, the great millstone who rule and teach well. In peace and salutations to you, sincere Akim out there, pushing this word in truth and sincerity to the four corners of the globe. May you brothers endure until the end. This is the brother Ra'aya with another video, and I'm going to start it off in Jeremiah chapter 50, verse 9. For lo, I will raise and cause to come up against Babylon an assembly of great nations from the north country. And that Babylon isn't speaking of the ancient Neo-Babylonian Empire. It's speaking of Babylon the Great, the virgin daughter of Babylon, Mystery Babylon in Revelation chapter 17, which is the United States of America. And besides being known as Babylon the Great in the scriptures, the United States of America is also known as spiritual Sodom and Egypt, as pursuant to Revelation 11, verse 8. And that north country is speaking of Russia, because what's north of the United States? Canada, that Arctic Ocean region, and then Russia. Here's a map right here. And that assembly of great nations are not just the allies of Russia, such as China, Iran, and North Korea, but also the allies of the United States of America, Britain, France, Germany, these other NATO nations, that at some point during World War III, which will take place, as it says in Revelation chapter 9, verse 12, one woe or destruction is past, referring to World War I, and behold, there come two woes more hereafter. World War II, which is past, and World War III, which is quickly coming, and will go nuclear. At some point during that third woe, America's allies are going to turn against her and ally themselves with that north country, Russia. And they shall set themselves in array against her. From thence she shall be taken. Their arrows shall be as of a mighty expert man. None shall return in vain. And those arrows are referring to nuclear missiles that Russia and her allies and the United States of America's allies that are going to turn against her are going to shoot onto the United States of America, Babylon the Great, 200 million of them, which is going to turn it into the biblical lake of fire from sea to shining sea, and then a desolate, uninhabitable wasteland afterwards. And I opened up the video with this verse to preface a clip from Wyon's YouTube channel titled Wyon Fine Print, Russia Eyes Arctic Dominance, Canada and US play catch-up. And like I just said, Russia is that north country because it's north of the United States. And what's also north of the United States? That Arctic Ocean region. And it's a well-known fact that Russia shooting its nuclear missiles over the Arctic to reach the US would be the shortest trajectory time for its missiles to reach the United States. And as we'll see in this clip, due to the ice melting, a lot of these different nations are building up their presence, military included, up in that Arctic Ocean region. And it's not for natural resources, as they'll say in this clip. It's through the will of Yahweh Bahasham Yahweh Shai to get that north country perfectly positioned to eventually shoot those nuclear missiles onto the United States. But real quick, this is a fair use copyright disclaimer. I do not own any of the footage in this clip, nor do I stand to gain from it monetarily. This is simply a educational video only.
Let's talk about this. The ice in the Arctic is melting rapidly. For the rest of the world, this is a climate crisis. But for countries, it is an opportunity, especially Russia. For years, the Russian president has had a grand plan to become the biggest beneficiary of climate change in the region. This is because below the Arctic lies a treasure trove of natural resources, 13% of the world's undiscovered oil, 30% of its untapped gas reserves, and a stock of rare earth metals that are worth $1 trillion. The world cannot just extract all this wealth. For that, the thick layer of ice needs to melt fast. Thankfully for Putin, this ice is melting fast. So Moscow is determined to control the region. Half of the Arctic is flanked by Russian coast. Russia has shored up its military power in the Arctic. It is building roads, ports, and airstrips. It is also beefing up military deployments by establishing strategic outposts on its coastline.
And just this year, Russia said that it's going to deploy in its military the Zircon hypersonic missile, which is nuclear capable, as well as the Sarmat or Satan II nuclear missile.
But Moscow is not alone. Other powers like China and the United States are also eyeing the Arctic. And now a fourth player has entered this battleground, and that is Canada. Canada has pledged to spend over $30 billion over the next 2 decades. This is to help counter military threats from Russia and China in the Arctic. Officials say the threat to the north has escalated after the Russian invasion of Ukraine. Reports suggest Russia has now the ability to sustain military operations across the Arctic. The melting ice caps means the once Arctic impassable ocean is ice-free for longer periods. This leaves North America and Canada particularly vulnerable. Last year, Canada promised to improve its northern capabilities. Analysts have warned that its imaging capabilities in the north require an upgrade. This new spending will be used to implement new systems, including a new surveillance and early warning system that covers the Arctic Circle. Is now available.
So with this clip, but just another example of biblical prophecy taking place right before our very eyes. And all these events are taking place to ultimately lead to the destruction of Babylon, the United States of America, by those 200 million nuclear missiles. Let's go back to Jeremiah chapter 50. I'm going to jump down to verse 41. Behold, a people shall come from the north, that north country, Russia, and a great nation, and many kings shall be raised up from the coasts of the earth, these other nations unto the north country, that assembly of not only Russia's allies, but the United States of America's allies who are going to turn against her at some point during World War III. Revelation 17 verse 16, and the 10 horns which thou sawest upon the beast, the 10 horns being NATO, and the 10 horns being the EU or European Union, and the beast being NATO. These shall hate the whore that rideth upon the beast, the United States of America, and shall eat her flesh, and burn her with fire, nuclear fire. They shall hold the bow and the lance, and what a bows shoot, arrows. So the missile silos and other launch platforms for these nuclear missiles. You have to remember that when the prophets saw these visions thousands of years ago, they didn't know what a modern day nuclear missile was, so they described it the best way they could with what they knew during their times. Ancient weapons of war, bows and arrows, spears, javelins, flying swords, you name it. They are cruel and will not shew mercy. Their voice shall roar like the sea, and they shall ride upon horses. Everyone put in array like a man to the battle against thee, O daughter of Babylon. I'm going to jump up to verse 40. As the Most High overthrew Sodom and Gomorrah and the neighbor cities thereof. And like I said at the beginning of the video, besides being known as Babylon the Great in the scriptures, the United States of America is also known as spiritual Sodom and Egypt, as pursuant to Revelation 11 verse 8. And what is the month of June known for? Pride Month, especially in the United States of America, to celebrate those people that are of that alphabet group beginning with LG, those Sodomites and Gomorrites. Saith Yahweh, so shall no man abide therein, neither shall any son of man dwell therein. And how was ancient Sodom and Gomorrah overthrown for their wickedness? With fire and brimstone from the sky. And this modern day Sodom and Gomorrah is going to be overthrown by modern fire and brimstone for its wickedness. Those nuclear tipped ICBMs. And as it says in verse 39, therefore shall the wild beasts of the desert with the wild beasts of the islands shall dwell there, and the owls shall dwell therein. It shall be no more inhabited forever, neither shall it be dwelt in from generation to generation. After those nuclear missiles hit the U.S. and turn it into the biblical lake of fire from sea to shining sea, and in that desolate, uninhabitable wasteland afterwards, only desert creatures will dwell here. Man, woman, or child will never set foot on this cursed land ever again. And it's going to stand as an eternal memorial as to what a wicked kingdom looked like, how not to govern the earth, and what the judgment and punishment was for afflicting the apple of the Most High's eye, the true children of Israel, who are known as the so-called Negroes, Latinos, and Native Americans today. So that's it with this video. And with this video, I hope your sincere Akim and Akwath were edified. Just keep strong. We're almost out of this final wicked captivity of the heathen nations, chiefly of the Edomites, primarily from Babylon the Great, the United States. So I'm going to say Abad Babal, Kwam Yasharala, and until next time, Shalom.